Welcome to Beyond the Plinth, the show about biokinetics and everything health and wellness orientated. I'm your host, Steve Saunders, and with me, as most of the time usually, it's...
I'm Wendy Vermaak. I'm here on behalf of BASA, the Biokinetics Association of South Africa.
And welcome to it, Wendy. Lovely to have you here again.
Thanks.
And we have a really special guest here in studio with us.
Okay, I'm Brink Ntjana. I'm working at TUT.
That's very simple because the amount of information this man has in his head is absolutely incredible, and a very quiet man. We're going to be looking together, both Wendy and myself, we're going to interrogate Brink on all sorts of information and his engagement in that market. And before we do that, Wendy, you mentioned how the two of you have really sort of, do the handshake type thing in that you've done the theory side of the lecturing.
Yes.
And Brink's done the practical lab side of applying that theory.
Right. So, we're discussing about how we equip students, so from the clinical background and the lecturing from the theory textbook side, and then, of course, the handover through to people as equipped as Brink is. But I think we need to actually just introduce Brink appropriately, because just to show his background and how equipped he is, and therefore so amazing. Good with our
Absolutely.
Clinical rotations and the students that he oversees. So give us a rundown, if you don't mind. Sorry, you're going to have to just intro yourself. What is your background now to where you are now as a lab technician at TUT?
I'm going to add in there because I think his background is it's diverse and quite amazing how he's developed up through the different areas. And one of our other guests, also from the northern reaches of South Africa's territories as well. They seem to be pushing out a lot of very knowledgeable people from that part of the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say from high school onwards.
Okay, Brink, Ntjana, as you've just asked me that from my background from high school, I studied at Holutwane Secondary School from 2008 until 2012.
Okay.
So I finished in a record time from the school. So I chose the stream of science so that I can be qualified into sports science before I can end the entry to biokinetics.
Okay.
Yes.
And was biokinetics the actual goal at the time when you were going into sports?
Okay, I took my hobby into profession. I'm a gymnast.
Oh, wow.
I'm a gymnast. I was a professional gymnast doing the rope skipping and also sports aerobics.
So what everyone can't see is he's actually doing a handstand while he tells us this.
Okay, from 2006, I joined gymnastic and I competed in several levels. And I end up even representing South Africa in 2011 at Switzerland, Louisiana.
I bet you Wendy didn't know that.
I didn't.
Wow.
In Louisiana, under World Gymnast Radar. So during Winter Games. So I also in 2017, I'm the gold medalist in Cape Town. I won. Even when you can go to YouTube, you'll find me under Brink Ntjana, rope skipping.
I'm going to put that link at the bottom there so you can watch that one. That'll be brilliant.
Yes, I'm doing the magic styles. I was at the last level for skipping rope. So due to aging, gymnastics is no longer, when you are aging, you start to be stiff. So you are no longer being competitive compared to the young ones. So before I lose the
at 22, you've given up, eh?
I had to leave my ropes down to say, no, I'm fine. As long as I leave with the gold medal. That was my last performance.
Wow, that's impressive.
I continued to coach Limpopo. I was a coach for 8 years in Limpopo under rope skipping. And the last one in 2018, I was the judge in South Africa for gymnastic here in Gauteng for summer games.
Wow.
Yes, so that's why I chose to do sports, because I take my hobby into profession.
Yes.
And after I completed my sports science, I went to do the BTech, advance my qualification. So concurrently, when I'm doing BTech, I went to UNISA to study teaching, postgraduate qualification.
Because you don't like to sit
So I'm a teacher by profession.
He's jumping from profession to profession.
Yes, I actually someone who like to learn.
We can see this, yes.
So I cannot just relax for a year. I need to do something. And I never got any gap year where I say, no, let me rest my mind. You see, ever since I started school, I never had any break. Ever since 1998. I've been studying from primary until now. I've never rested. So after I studied my teaching, I tried to get knowledge in law. I actually started law, but I couldn't manage to finish due to the workload. I was in the TUT and I was in UNISA. So the court observations were interfering with my schedule. I end up to say, no, let me just choose one. Maybe in the later stage, I swear I can go back to finish it.
Okay.
So according to me, if we say someone is a dropout, is someone who does not have PhD, because PhD is the last qualification.
So I'm a dropout.
Yeah, you can say you're a dropout. So
I drop out almost instantly. Yeah,
I'm doing my PhD, or Doctor of Philosophy in Health Science. So
And what
I'm
are you
at
doing
the process of obtaining my data, which is the pilot study. I'm going to do in November to check the viability of the study. I'm doing it at KZN, checking the effect of cranial loading on posture, proprioception, muscle activity, and pulmonary functions. And lastly,
this is making me all excited.
You see, then lastly, I'm gonna also check on the non-communicable diseases, because that's the scope we need to look under the rural, because they don't get opportunity to check their glucose, cholesterol. You see, when they are aging, they come up with all those diseases. We must find the cause before we can come up with the solution to the problem.
Yeah, we've had a previous discussion on exactly that.
Yes.
Impact.
And it is amazing with our general population, it's a major issue because the public healthcare system is slowly changing and we're working hard to get that education out there. But it takes good people like Brink getting that information out there and helping people understand how to apply it. But that's not what we're really talking about, is it? That's all fascinating and amazing.
Let's bring it back to, as you said, the application. Yeah.
How do we find normal people? This isn't a normal person. This is a high-achieving individual. It's fascinating to hear all that experience, that background, the high-performing sport background, the coaching background, the educational background, the ever wanting to educate yourself background is absolutely fascinating.
And now others, educating others. I mean, you're taking it forward, which is also great.
So we're talking now about the lab environment.
Right. So that's actually where Brink is now excelling as a lab tech at TUT. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing, when you were just talking about your jump, skip, and all of that, and how you decided to put down your ropes, the one thing that came to my mind is, when you can't do, you teach. And I was just thinking about, except you can do and teach, which is amazing. Yeah.
Are we going to learn a handstand later?
Yeah, maybe.
You'll learn it.
Yeah,
no, I won't. Good luck with that one.
Yes.
So we rely, of course, as you say, like on this baton passing issue with, that link between the academia and equipping to being able to actually see an actual patient.
Yes.
So this is where Brink is amazing. He is equipping students with now taking all the knowledge and stuff that they're learning in theory from the textbooks, ultimately, the clinical exercise science, the pathophysiology, and so on, and now saying, okay, now you're presented with a patient. What do you do?
So walk us through that process then. Okay, so within that practical experience for the student, they've attended the lectures and they're now going to step across into your lab. Give us a specific example of what that process is going to be like.
Okay, should I explain the process of handling the patient actually?
Handling the student in understanding the patient. Do you understand what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah.
So you say I must tell the process of how to tell the student to handle the
Exactly.
patient.
I'm fascinated by that. In other words, how do you take a student who's been trained in theory and help them understand how to extend that application practically?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I can say before they do
I
the...
just got to stop quickly. So I'm trying very, very hard to sound clever here.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll carry on. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let me actually explain the process. We know when they are learning theory, there are others who understand the theory, but the practical component, they don't understand it. First of all, before we can continue with the practicals itself, we must teach you about the ethics. How should you conduct yourself?
Very good.
How should you wear as in biokinetics? Because it's important as a profession to wear appropriately so that it can be able to describe you. Because they say not only verbal is the communication, we also have got non-verbal communication whereby the clothing also explain. Because if you see someone wearing the soldier's clothes, you'll say that person is a soldier. If you see them wearing the scrubs, you can see that they are in the medical field. You see, so first we need to teach them the ethics, how to conduct themselves, and how to speak with the patient or how to get the information from the patient before we can do the actual practicals. For instance, if now we deal with the patient or we take the students to act as the patient so that they train before they can go outside. From the first year, we teach them about the ethics, how to conduct themselves, how to measure, how to explain the consent to the patient. Because before you touch the patient, you must get the approval. You see, so you must teach them how to ask those questions. We have got a format in the university that we are using to say, here is the consent, informed consent. So you need to obtain information in this way. Greetings is important. And before you can give someone the consent, you say, here's the consent, explain. Some they cannot read and write. So explain it to them. And those who can read, you can actually briefly explain to say, here's the consent, is talking about this. You give the patient read it themselves.
Yes.
It's not like someone is in coma because we are dealing with the final phase of rehab. Most, they are conscious.
Yes.
They can be able to give you the permission. So from our side or practical component, we teach them about those. And from the second years, we teach them about measuring the, actually I can say resting parameters, baseline. Because before you can say someone is progressing, you must know where they were before you can say the heart rate reduced or the blood pressure went down. First, you need to measure it when the patient comes so that it's going to be the guidance to you that there's a progress to the rehabilitation program.
The objective measurement, you know, and that's really what sets us apart from a clinical aspect, is being able to firstly clinically assess and then use clinical reasoning as to whether whatever objectives that you're aiming for, whatever you have prescribed, is actually reaching those objectives or not.
Yes, because that's what you need to look into. And since I said second years, some they are not in second year. You are not allowed to prescribe because you are still learning. So you must make sure that you are well equipped before you can do the exercise prescriptions and the likes, because the exercise determined by the condition that you are having. Some of exercise, they might worsen the situation. You see, that's why it's important for them to learn more theory before they are going to do the practical. And we need to make sure they understand. We give them something called a prac exam to check their understanding. And the pass mark must be up so that we can not 50 like theory. You see, we must make sure that your pass mark must be 80.
Yeah.
To make sure that the person understand the practical component before they go outside to have a real patient. So in second year, each and every, we have two practical or OSCE exams in June and in December to make sure that the students understand the practical component. And before they do the practical, they do the exam, we must make sure that they understand all the components. Those that they don't understand, we give them extra classes individually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So quality students is really where we're going. We, want them to be fully equipped from an academic perspective as well as from a practical one, because every patient is not a textbook. When that patient comes in, you can't just say, oh, sorry, let me just turn to page 58, which describes how to treat, this diabetic patient. Yeah. That's why our degree isn't just a little 6-month short course. It's years of training and equipping.
So taking that experience for those students, they then got you as a resource that's helping them understand how to apply that theory into the market. And the process from there on out, when they're starting to head into the market, do they come back and start referring back to you or referring back into the environment to get ongoing support? Where does the handover for these students into the market happen?
Okay, let me just say, since now we have got a new cohort into UT. Before we used to have a 4+1. When we say 4+1, you must study sports science. After, when you are done, you start doing biokinetics. Thereafter, you are going to do the internship, whereby you need to be appointed a supervisor who's supervising you to check you are doing the right things, and they give comments. And you cannot do prescription without having the supervision. So with this new one, what we do, we send them out in their third years to the clinical or rotations or clinical sites, where we have got 1 mil, we have got BMW, we have got Z Africans Hospital, and we also have CSIR, is a independent practice or a private practice, where they rotate every week.
This is just specific to the TUT students. All the various universities have their own other clinical rotations.
Yeah, each and every university, they have got their sites where they send their students for clinical rotation. So with us, for each and every month, I must go visit them in all those sites to check with their supervisors. Are they complying? Is there any misbehavior that is not needed in the practice? And also we get comments from the supervisors to help us from the practical component and also theory, to say where these people are lacking. Like you said, in the textbook, they might be different from the real patient or to the industry. So we prepare them theoretically. After they come to me for practicals, when we feel like they are ready, we send them outside. And also outside, they give us comment to say these people are still lacking with the orthopedic, for instance. So they give us chance to dwell much time into orthopedic. So industry, they help big time, because they are the one who are evaluating our students, and thereafter they give us the comments, and we can be able to teach them or deepen their knowledge in that area.
I have a question. Sorry, actually, just coming more from the theory side. I obviously, once I feel like my textbook side of stuff has been done from the lecturing perspective, I accept and rely on the lab techs such as yourself, to handle it going forward from there. So it's easier from an academic thing to write an exam, check the clinical reasoning, etc., but very different on the ground. What would you say has been one of the interesting findings with dealing with the students in the labs that's maybe changed some of our prescription for biokinetics? What are you picking up from the students feeding back?
Okay, I can say from the previous program, which is BTech Biokinetics, I was getting positive report from students, exiting students. For instance, they are working outside. When they are working outside, they come back and say, thank you for preparing us for these practicals, because we have got different norms, actually norms and standard. Like we said, we are using American College of Sport Medicine. Some values that you get there, like blood pressure. That's why there is a huge debate with other nurses when you say someone of 130 or 140 is over 80 is a pre-hypertension. But from the other discipline, it's not, because you are using different norms and standards in books. So that's why I always tell them when I'm teaching the practicals, you must be guided by the values they are giving you where you are working, so that you can be guided by the values that they give it to you.
So that it's appropriate.
Yes, so that you cannot have a debate with the patient, because some patients, they are intellect. When you tell them this is the value, they might debate with you. It's important for you to quote, to say, according to this is normal, because you cannot just say this is normal. You must quote to say, according to this book or according to these norms,
Yes.
is normal. To
Give
avoid
your
a
references.
debate, you give the referencing so that you can avoid a debate with a patient or with someone that you are dealing with. So it's important always as a biokinetics or as a profession to quote where you got the values, because we don't have independent values in South Africa as yet. Unless
Working on it.
Wendy
Working
can
on it.
come
We're
with it.
working on it.
Yes.
That's an interesting topic as well. We'll have to go
Yeah.
into that. What is the norms that we have here, and what are the norms, and where do we refer them from all
yeah,
over?
we are our own special people.
Yes.
Our population is our own
Yes.
our own population, and so that's where our academia and so on is delving into all the data and the norms specific for that. Yeah.
Yeah, by so saying, we are getting a good report from the students, especially when they come back from the sites to say, now we are well-rounded if they are graduates. So thank you very much for the practical that you give it to us. My work every day I wake up, I only be in the lab. So there's no any other thing that I can say I'm doing except at the lab.
Well, I can say that in my dealings with biokineticists, not only do they do a good clinical job and a good professional job, but there seems to be a connection with people on an emotional level. And when I mean that, their EQ, their ability to communicate with anyone seems to be phenomenal. So I'm sure that's part of the skill set that's got to be taught, but maybe it's come from the type of person who's interested in biokinetics. But that ability to communicate, that bedside manner, that ability to spend some time with an individual to try and understand a bit of the motivation why they may have an underlying issue of some sort, or they are interested in performing beyond ridiculous levels of high performance, whatever it is, because you guys are dealing across the board with all of it. It is interesting to look at with the students as well.
Yeah, I think nerves is one of the things, that we see with our very young students to start off with, but then it's amazing to see the development and the confidence grow. With regards to EQ, I can't say we have any specific EQ courses, but I do think you're right. I think a biokineticist generally tends to be someone who has a kind of personal interaction want.
Yes.
It's kind of like a calling as such, if I could say such. But one of the things that you didn't mention there was about, high performance. But one of the things dealing with some of our patients is pain.
Yes.
And pain is a massively emotional, toiling issue. So, yeah, that understanding and so on, no theory or textbook can even do that. And I don't think even any time in the lab, that's just time and experience. Yeah, and that's why the clinical rotations are so important, with dealing with
Yes, the individual.
people.
Yeah. And that vast experience of what all those different individuals are going to be reacting to or engaging with.
You see, I can say in biokinetics, like they teach you also the communication. You can come as a shy individual, but with time, you are going to gain confidence because you are dealing with people in daily basis. You see, so you must know how to communicate. So those who came to biokinetics shy, today as we speak, they are the very talkative individual. You see, it can change your personality. You see, that's why...
Like me, I was very quiet.
That's why she said biokinetics is a calling because you must love it.
Yes.
You must love biokinetics. It will love you in return.
Yes. Well, there we go. That sounds like it wraps it up. Hey. You got to love biokinetics, but it'll love you in return. So, Brink, thank you very much. It was very interesting and phenomenal to hear about your background and your sporting performance, but also your passion into the lab work and the profession of biokinetics, helping the students develop to become confident in the market. All those topics you've discussed, ethics, practical engagement, working in the market, it's everywhere. And where you're going with your studies in the future as well it's actually a bit mind-blowing. I'm trying to keep track of all the things he's mentioned the whole way through here, Wendy. But
it's just biokinetics promotion. Biokinetics promotion.
Actually, we must speak biokinetics because there is a high need for biokinetics in the public sectors also. Because we wrote a article with Dr. Muluvo, Dr. Terry, and Prof. Paul, where we says we need to explain the need of biokinetics in the public sector. So there is a high demand of biokinetics in public sector.
Yes.
Because if you can check, people are getting re-hospitalized because they are not fully rehabilitated. You see, so it's our work to make sure that people, they are well rehabilitated and also they improve their high quality of life so that they can get back to the community, you see, strong.
And activities of daily living, independent living.
Yes. So, because if you can check recently, there are a lot of non-communicable diseases amongst our elders and also the young ones because the physical activity declined. You see, so it's important as biokinetics to promote physical activity and so that they can increase their health statuses. Yes, through the physical activity. That's why they say exercise is medicine.
Absolutely, it is.
We can only do this through our lab techs. Thank you very much.
So there we go. That wraps it up for us today. I think it's been a very fascinating discussion today. Brink, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to chatting. I think in the future we're going to see what we can bring up and how we can engage that, because those topics go down 47 rabbit holes for me, and I need a lot of educating. And I think you're the person who will probably handle that. Wendy, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. And Brink,
Pleasure's
thank you.
all mine.
Last question for you.
Yes.
What's your advice to any of the students going out into the market? Anyone interested in biokinetics and wants to get into the field? What's your general guideline, philosophy, approach you can give them as advice?
Okay, the advice to all the prospective students who want to study biokinetics,
Yes.
and also the students who finished they are in the process of finishing their biokinetics, I would like to tell them that biokinetics is a very interesting course that teach you on how to treat patient, also on how to rehabilitate patients. Because this wait patients means the person who wait to get healed or to be fine. That's why they call them patient. They can wait more than the time they're expecting.
Yes.
You see, so they are patient into waiting to become well rehabilitated. Biokinetics is the best profession to return them back to the community, healthy and strong. So to all students, we are urging you to come and study biokinetics into growing this young profession in the country, which is South Africa. To say all people who want to study, let them come, and we make sure that we do our best into rehabilitating our special populations, normal individuals, and the disability or different able people.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Well, there we go. So that wraps it up. Thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, guys, if you've got any comments, questions, queries, issues, anything you'd like to know, please put it in the comments below. We will be tagging the world champs and other YouTube videos we can find of Brink and any of the papers he's referenced as well. But any questions, give us a shout, and happy we'll try and answer all of them as we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This podcast was produced by Ntjana and the team at Soundpatch Studio, presented by yours truly, Steve Saunders. Interested in doing a podcast? Drop us a message on soundpatch@me.com. That's soundpatch@me.com. As always, thanks for listening, and catch you on the next podcast.